We're constantly hit with these stories of overnight millionaires, right? Gurus on social media promising instant wealth in the markets. But what if the real secret to getting rich isn't a secret at all? What if it's just slow? So today we're going to challenge that whole get rich quick idea and look at a path that's a lot more sustainable.
And this quote, it absolutely nails the core idea. The market is an incredible machine for building wealth, but you have to stay in the game long enough for it to work. Most people don't. They chase some huge win, they risk everything, and they get wiped out. The real goal isn't winning big, it's just surviving.
I mean, look at this. The charts, the data, all the flashing lights, it's all designed to be so alluring. It promises a fortune to anyone who thinks they can crack the code. But honestly, for most beginners, this promise of a quick score is a really dangerous trap that makes them ignore the single most important rule of the game.
Okay, so let's break down the typical approach of a newcomer. Let's call it the speculator's mindset. And it is all about chasing that one single life-changing win.
This right here, this captures the fundamental difference. It's a tale of two mindsets. A beginner looks at a trade and the first thing they ask is, how much money can I make? A professional starts from the complete opposite side. They ask, how much money can I lose? And believe me, that simple shift in focus is absolutely everything.
And this highlights a huge psychological flaw we all have. You see the fancy cars, the big houses, and you assume those people are wealthy. But real wealth is the stuff you don't see. It's the assets sitting in a portfolio just quietly compounding. See, speculators are chasing the appearance of wealth by spending their winnings. Investors are building real wealth by not touching it.
And get this, there's actually data to back this up. One study found that long-term investors scored way higher on measures of emotional intelligence than speculators. And that totally makes sense, right? You need patience, you need self-control for long-term success. Speculation, on the other hand, is often just driven by raw emotion, greed, fear, and that thrill of the chase.
Beginners, for some reason, are just drawn to complexity. They find a strategy like pair trading, which uses all this fancy stuff like linear regression and statistical anomalies. It feels sophisticated, like they found some secret formula that only the pros use.
But this is the million-dollar question, isn't it? We just assume that a more complicated system has to be better, that it must have some kind of edge. But is that really true when it comes to the markets?
And here's the answer. The truth is, a lot of the most profitable, most enduring strategies are incredibly simple. Complexity, more often than not, just confuses you and distracts you from the principles that actually matter. Okay, so if that's the wrong way, what's the alternative? Well, it's shifting your focus away from chasing wins and just focusing on surviving. The moment you do that, the entire game changes. This is how the professionals think.
For a pro, risk management isn't just part of the strategy, it is the strategy. Before you even dream about profits, you have to protect what you already have. Your capital is your lifeblood in this game. Without it, you're out. Simple as that.
This analogy is just perfect. Think about it. You don't have health insurance to cover a minor cold, right? You have it to protect yourself from a catastrophic medical event that could ruin you financially. Risk management is the exact same thing. It's not about avoiding tiny little losses. It's about making sure no single loss can ever wipe you out.
Your capital is your single most important asset. Protecting it isn't optional. It's the foundation for any kind of long-term success. Without this insurance policy, you're really just gambling. You're just hoping you never hit that one catastrophic loss.
So, if you focus on survival, if you protect your capital, what happens next? Well, you unlock the single most powerful force in all of finance. You give yourself enough time for the real magic to begin.
A physicist, Albert Bartlett, said this, and it is so profoundly true. Our brains, they think in straight lines. We really struggle to wrap our heads around the explosive power of exponential growth, which is exactly how compounding works. It starts off small, feels kind of insignificant for years, and then it just explodes.
And this chart shows you the fuel for that compounding engine. If you look at history, equities have delivered the highest average returns. Over decades, that kind of growth can turn even modest savings into serious wealth. But, and this is a big but, to capture those returns, you have to be able to stomach the short-term craziness. You have to survive.
This is so key. Everybody's looking for Warren Buffett's secret stock picking formula. But his real secret is that he started investing when he was 10 years old, and he just never stopped. His biggest edge wasn't that he was smarter, it was his time horizon. He just survived long enough for that compounding magic to go to work.
And that brings us to the final and maybe the most important point, the one asset you have complete control over, and the one that truly matters most.
The key thing to get here is that risk isn't a fixed thing. Those wild, stomach-churning swings in the market, they smooth out over longer periods. A 40% drop in 1 year is terrifying, but if you zoom out over 20 years, it's just a tiny blip on a line that's trending up. Time literally transforms that short-term risk into long-term opportunity.
This quote might be a little blunt, but man, is it true. Once you have a solid plan, the hardest part is just doing nothing. It's fighting that constant urge to react to every scary headline or chase every hot tip. It's having the discipline to simply shut up and wait.
So, I'll leave you with this one question, because your answer really determines everything that happens next. Are you a speculator, playing to win in a single day? Or are you an investor, playing the long game, where survival and time are your greatest allies? The path you choose, well, that's going to define your entire financial journey.